So yes, as Nikki mentioned, we don't yet have quorum. But so I think calling the meeting to order may be not in order, but we will have roll call at this point. Nikki Hubbard, Desiree, Moana Cruz, no. And Bobby Nishimoto. Yes, here, Brad Kurokawa, Carol Ignacio, Crystal Kua. So I was going to make a motion to begin. Michelle Hartman is the chair of the or president of the Hāmākua Business Association, and she has a meeting that she has to attend at 5:30. So I was going to have Michelle lead off her presentation on a public restroom on Mamani Street. But Michelle doesn't seem to be here either that I can detect. And so at this point, without having quorum, I think we will begin with the presentations. And so because we are able to proceed with presentations, even though to carry on actual business of the committee, we're not able to do so without a quorum. But as far as presentations go, we have four presentations that had been scheduled for this evening. And again, the first I was going to have Michelle present. But then we have several other presentations that we are have been offered for this evening's committee meeting. We had the expectation that Blake Naughton would be able to present on his experience with public access and open space and natural resources in reference to the application that he made for Ponk easement or acquisition, and I'm not sure which it was, of several long coastal properties in the Pepekeo area. And Blake wasn't able to make that presentation this evening, but
We have my presentation.
we'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
Right. The second presentation that we had scheduled, or third, was a presentation on the permanent affordable living group regarding an affordable housing proposal in Pepekeo. And Mary Blythe was going to be our presenter in that regard. Hey, Mary. Hi. Are you prepared to tell us about that?
Absolutely.
Why don't I have you come over here and we can have us.
Okay, where do you want me to sit?
Right here,
in front of
would be
the screen?
good.
Oh, because I'm on Zoom.
Yeah.
Aloha. Thank you. I appreciate all of you being here today. It's a rather unusual orientation. I'm going to just try to acknowledge everybody that's here. Thank you so much for being interested, for caring, for being such a special part of this community. And this is how it gets done, right? We show up and we share. And today I'm pretty honored and excited to be able to share some good news, because I know that affordable housing is just top of mind for everybody. I think that's really interested in seeing this community develop in a balanced and fair way. And so to that end, I became highly interested in it myself, having been a director of perinatal education at North Hawaii Community Hospital for the 15 years, and seeing that many of my students and clients were having their children here, born and raised here, and then having to face the fact that it was really hard for them to stay here, and thinking about leaving, and many of them haven't and are continuing to do that at a really alarming rate. So I think everyone should know that right away, that we're facing really a crisis, and it could very quickly become a tragedy if we don't address it. And I know so many wonderful people are working so hard on this, especially at the county. The Office of Housing, Susan Kuntz, the mayor, is highly dedicated and seriously interested in everyone that does have something to offer and a part to play. So just recently, on that note, I was able to meet with all of the folks at the county administration in the various departments to speak with them directly about a property that is, I don't know, it's going to be hard to share. We don't have
to go to the first page.
if you could, well, or the, oh, I see. There we go. Okay, so let me just back up a bit. I have, after my career at North Hawaii, I became a realtor to help address this, thinking that I could be instrumental in maybe getting people in their first homes and you know, be part of understanding the growth that's happening out here and being, you know, facilitating some of that. But I also, you know, was aware of a company on Kauai, a nonprofit, a 501c3 affordable housing group. And because I was good friends with the founder of that, he approached me to see if I could locate any properties on the Big Island, because they have now had such great success on Kauai with 7 projects underway right now, very significant. They're just moving mountains over there, and they have that ideal private-public relationship, or partnership, I should say, where they're, you know, able to attract private funding, because of course, everyone that is coming here, is new here, is hoping to establish a lifestyle here, is heavily dependent on the workforce here. And the workforce is having a terrible time being able to sustain themselves. And so there's a really big opportunity for those people that are truly coming here to be part of the community to help in this way, because who's going to do the work? That's really the question. And everybody, if they were to ask themselves that question, then it would lead them to the next conclusion, which is, you know, our plumbers, electricians, our teachers, our caregivers, all the fabulous humans that make up this community and make it work are in real danger. So what would it take if we all understood that this issue could be handled, you know, together? Together we rise, together we could help provide some of these solutions. And since they had such a tremendous, I maybe move the slide a little bit, opportunity on Kauai, we did locate a property. And as it turns out, this property in Hāmākua, you're all going to be very familiar with. I think that, there you go. The if you're driving towards town, Hilo, you're going to see entering Hāmākua on the right-hand side, that section of 2-story green home, you know, apartment complexes. They look very uniform. I used to think they were dorms, maybe. I didn't really know. Come to find out, this property that became available and brought to my attention is taking a right at that corner, right at that turn. If you go there and then go right again, you're going to wind up and follow along that housing unit. And on the left, you're actually going to see a beautiful senior housing section. And then on the right is this other affordable living and affordable homes that are, you know, just perfectly situated in the zone, which is highly considered to be ideal for an affordable housing project. And the 5 acres that we're looking at here with the triangle, it is, that is the shape, kind of looks like a pie, and it does connect right here to a beautiful county facility park that's right adjacent to this. So because of the zoning is so appropriate, it's zoned RM 3.5. That might not mean anything to you, but residential, multifamily. Anyway, this 5.5 acres can become 69 to 70 units of affordable living. It's already zoned. The infrastructure is there. We have confirmed without a doubt that the wastewater, the fire, and all the things that we would need to move ahead on this purchase are there, and that we could be looking at a perfectly placed development right in the heart of our community that puts us on the bus line. So 10 minutes from Hilo, where all the jobs are, and of course, all the infrastructure which would be necessary. And for workforce families to have a park, their children can go right there too. And that the whole, significantly located and appropriate.
Excuse me,
So,
is there a sewer system?
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, the capacity is in there, and that's why we're moving ahead. And so that's a very good question. That was our number one question. Yeah. So we have done our due diligence. We moved to this point now where we are still seeking funding to make the to close on the property. But what we learned, which was so encouraging, is that once that site control is there by the company PAL, which is Permanently Affordable Living, they are able to then leverage the enormous pool of funds that the governor, the mayor, and and the housing has control over, to leverage the funds to make the development happen. So it's kind of the perfect situation. All the parts and people and place are in line for something like this. And it's just encouraging, because again, it's 5 years out. I mean, before people are going to be living there, we're talking 3 to 5 years, and that's still not addressing the immediate need, but the need is that immediate. And there is allocation for transition housing for houselessness. So we're addressing that. Apartments, rent to own, and private 2 and 3 bedroom homes. So it's a nice mix in a beautiful environment, and believe it or not, it has ocean views, which is superior, because when you think of affordable living, we want it to be a thriving environment where people feel uplifted, not just stuck in the lowest end of, town where they don't have access to the things that, this is bordered by a stream. So that's the good news. The better news would be if we did, find, locate, inspire some benefactors and funding that would enable whoever was in that position and acknowledging the crisis and willing to help. Many wonderful creative options are available, from tax write-offs to loans, to there's some very creative ideas that are out there and that have worked really well for people on Kauai. They have a large situation over there that is different than ours because they're smaller, but a lot of big money has gone to Kauai, and those people are taking up the task and taking responsibility and helping with the issue. And the same thing needs to happen here, and it can happen from the smallest donations to the larger ones, but there are many benefits if someone were so inclined to start moving this along, because getting this company to move over here, relocate here, and develop additional homes and apartment buildings. There's many apartment buildings in Hilo that are just dying to be renovated and to be put to use for affordable housing. So it's quite a ripe environment for there is a solution, and this might be part of it. This is certainly our hope.
Are you dealing with any government agencies?
Oh yeah.
Are you familiar with the Urban Institute?
Well, I don't know that that's relevant here on this island, but I'm very familiar with nonprofits and with government institutions, and especially got a great education just this week through Susan Coombs at Housing and all of that. They're very well locked and loaded, if you will, to disperse funds when they have appropriate candidates, and we consider that Pal is the appropriate candidate. One of many, and there's the application process and there's all the things that have to happen. But we have a team of 10 people, and the administration and the understanding of what it takes is there because they're doing the identical thing on Kauai. So why reinvent the wheel? You know, the idea that we could duplicate something that's winning, something that's working, and just keep moving and get on with this rather than do a lot of meetings and a lot of talking. Because I think, you know, that's okay, but action is really exciting, especially when you have something that would really meet our needs and would be viable and suitable for the, you know, the issue we're talking about.
Do you have any concept of how many square feet a house might be that somebody would build on the property?
Well, I have other, you know, pro forma proposals that I could share with you independently, but square footage right now isn't on the top of my mind.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, you're talking about worker bees in Hilo. Are these families
Oh,
with children?
Oh, absolutely. The whole gamut. But yes, we're really targeting the workforce. That is our main objective. But the homeless problem is so outrageous and difficult that, you know, according to this draft of the ideas that are out there and have been presented to the mayor, there is an allocation for some tiny homes for transition housing. But the thing that I was inspired by about PAL, the company Permanently Affordable Living, is that they have this idea that's much more cohesive in terms of just building homes. You know, the head of their building department, it was with Habitat for 25 years. The team, the COO, the whole team is so devoted and so incredibly knowledgeable. That gives us a great base to know how to go after those funds and work with those organizations that can and are ready. They're ready to help. They just have to have the right person to give it to. And that company, organization, or nonprofit has to be able to execute, right? And that's a very important piece and a good question.
Sherry?
Yes.
Hi,
Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
I'm-
Nice presentation. How do you deal with one of the thorny issues that if there's federal money involved here, then you have a very difficult time keeping the money for people who live here right now. And sometimes you have federal money that encourages people to move here who weren't here before, and you're not solving the problem.
Good question. I have a perfect answer.
Okay, I'm sure you.
Okay, there is a fellow on our team. His name is Larry Graff. He's our chief operating officer. He's had 35 years in government, HUD, Section 8, the entire organization that you're talking about in San Diego. Remarkable record, a phenomenal human who has all the understanding of what you're talking about. And so through fair housing and all of those, you know, like you said, laws and federal requirements, they have developed something called a priorities and preferences. It's a point system. It's absolutely legal and it's totally working. So that only no newcomers will be able to be involved in getting.
Addresses the existing problem.
Absolutely. It's all based on how long you get to, where you live, where you work, and all of your generational, right, connections. So it's a phenomenal, well thought out and highly important part of this, because, you know, you do have so many regulations on that level. And I don't know that I would be as confident as I am bringing this project to bear without the understanding that they already have, you know, because it's a labyrinth of enormous regulations. And if you know what you're doing, then you know how to navigate that. And because they're a 50C, I always get this wrong. Yes, thank you. They are held very accountable with very strict oversights and audits. So, you know, that's another piece that everyone should be looking at and concerned about. And
Mary, we have a couple of questions.
Yes.
From the online.
okay, and I want to watch my time. so-
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
we have a couple minutes for a
Thank
couple questions. So I think it's Michelle has a minute.
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, sorry. This actually is not about this proposal at all. I'm the head of the Hāmākua Business Association, and Ton asked me to come and talk about sidewalks and bathroom and parking.
We're gonna
But
have-
I have another meeting in 9 minutes, and I'm not trying to detract from the Kauhale o Pepakeo. So I just
Michelle,
want,
I think we'll probably have to have you present next,
is
next
that
month.
okay? I just wanted to apologize. I couldn't find the
Oh,
link.
no. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
get to you next month. Thank you.
goodbye, guys.
Yeah.
Keep doing the good work. 'Cause it's good work.
Thanks, Michelle.
Nikki, were there other questions?
And
Zoom.
they were,
I have one, Mary.
Okay, Dave.
So I know this property generally,
Yeah.
right? We drive by going to Hilo. So those X amount of buildings are existing. Was those the green buildings in your
Uh-huh.
picture? And then what?
Oh,
was
no,
also
no.
there, or something else, or is this,
Oh,
is
No,
that
the
just, I'm a
picture
little
was not the
confused
green
of,
building.
is it those buildings? Is it another property next to those buildings?
no, that might be what you're thinking, but no, it's actually,
Well, we have all these.
this is vacant land, but showing you the shape
So
of the
the
land.
plot, the whole
And
acreage.
that's
So
all
this is
for
just a
affordable
design,
housing. It's kind of
design,
a
yeah,
projected
okay, now
design,
I got it. Okay,
exactly.
so the whole thing is empty, but it's close to where those other green.
It's in a
buildings are.
beautifully laid out, right?
We're kind of right next to it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I
you should
got
turn up there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind
I
of
got
cool.
Thank you.
It actually makes a difference going, just driving in there, because you really can immediately
So is
see.
this property for sale? Or
Yeah,
is-
it's for sale. It's in escrow right now. Pal has it in escrow.
Okay,
Yeah. Yes.
Would the affordable units be rented or fee simple only?
Rent to own, so there's a combination that's being proposed of rent to own rentals and transition homes, as well as homes for sale. For local families, yes. And so because of the way the governmental funds and the leveraging works, it's 30% of the income, so that's supplemented by, right? And so it really does serve the community that is targeting. This whole concept is based on.
okay, so they're purchasing the property, so what is your next goal? Is it creating financing to build this project? Is
No,
that-
we have, that piece comes later. Securing the property right now is our main goal. So we're in a fundraising drive. In fact, Coldwell Banker has decided to become partners with us, and all the what we've also looked at, to be honest, is that this cannot solely be solved by county, I mean, by government, because of the need. It's so great. So this public-private partnership idea has legs, and it has very good outcomes when everybody decides that this is all of our problem. Who's going to do the work? You know, back to that question. And so we're approaching it through the idea that realtors, believe it or not, are actually very well placed to help with this problem. Because I don't know, you might not know this, but they are the largest membership organization in the country, with the largest client base and the wealthiest clients. So from that perspective, there's a great approach. They're dealing with this all day long. They have the ability to help. They have desire to help. So one by one, we're having, you know, this is a perfect example. I have some handouts for anyone who's really interested. And I can certainly be contacted. I have my info and everything right here, but the idea that we're involving everybody and we're making this appeal to anyone who sees the value in, you know, keeping our workforce on the island and just improving our community all around.
Mary, you mentioned regulations
Mhm.
or perhaps restrictions that would prioritize residents on the Big Island above those who might be coming from elsewhere. I'm not really familiar with what those regulations are or restrictions that you might that might allow us to make those prioritizations? Are you able? to
Fair
elaborate
housing
on that?
laws, is that what you're speaking about?
Perhaps it's fair housing
Uh-huh.
laws. I just don't know
Mhm.
what they are.
Well, you're not, discrimination, right, for a variety of, is not allowed, right? When you're
Yeah.
in the rental business, whatever, there's laws that protect that, okay? In this case, this is, and I would say probably better to speak to this is my cohort, Larry Graff, who would tell you exactly how it is, but they have, again, the priorities and preferences point system is within the restrictions of fair housing. It honors
Oh.
the existing laws. It doesn't break any of the laws. It actually just takes what's already on the books. And then this Habitat does the same thing. So it's a way, you look at the average median income, and it's a way to make sure that the properties that are being sold or rented are going to local families, and that's all easily verified, spelled out, and I could definitely follow up with you on that.
Okay,
You know,
thank
because
you
it
much.
is,
Yeah.
it's so important.
It's a
That's
huge
it's a
issue.
great, you know,
Right.
we're missing the point if we have
Right.
this going on and then we're, you know, no, that's not gonna happen.
Thank you.
Mhm.
About a year ago, I read about. This involves the state of Hawaii, but this involves all the counties. But the state was going kind of out of their way to attract people from the mainland and other areas and offering a variety of incentives. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, and it doesn't sound very good either.
I read about state offering people to come here to work
Oh,
remotely.
oh,
and so on and so forth. So it's not like the state is kind of working in opposition to what you're trying to do.
well, I don't know, but on May 15th, I think we're gonna hear from the governor some coming out with a proclamation very strongly in favor of this kind of partnership and this idea and the work.
Right, if they could favor that, then be doing something else over here. And I've got-
Yeah, yeah, I
I've got
know.
a whole extensive purview about
That's crazy.
attracting people and blah, 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 blah. Come to Hawaii to live, work remotely and so on and so forth. Offering all kinds of incentives.
This wouldn't be very attractive to someone like that, I'm afraid, you know,
Right.
but it's news to me too, so I'd have to look into that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good time for him to go on.
I just wanted to shed light on it, but
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to restate the question.
if people are given the option
Mm-hmm.
to buy a home?
You can't hear. on
Can't
Zoom.
hear. Yes, that's correct.
I might
We're
have
having
got-
a little
oh.
trouble hearing some of the questions
Oh.
on Zoom. And
I might have-
consequently, if you could restate any questions that are posed.
Oh,
I would
okay.
appreciate that.
Did my computer hit this?
No.
Nothing
It's
happened.
just
Okay.
because they're far away.
I
You're
thought
okay.
I might
You're
have
good.
muted somebody. Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Well, I have a question.
I have a question. Oh,
Okay. Oh, we got two questions. Okay.
yeah.
Let's let
I
Mr.
have my,
go first because he already was talking.
Okay. We'll be right with you.
Is there any thought about if somebody buys a home? Do they have to live in that home for at least 10 years?
Oh, that's no question. And I don't know the
No
limit on
question.
that.
Can you pass a law like that? That's what I mean.
That is the law.
There-
I
Well,
think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is-
It depends what kind of funding that you use
Oh.
to obtain the house. And what program you obtain the house from. So, but that's not the question for Mary to answer.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so we'll take Diana's question.
Okay. Hi, Diane.
She's muted.
Do I need to do anything?
oh, hi. I just sent, yeah. So my question was about determination of residents and how they would qualify. So how do they qualify and how do you guys determine who is awarded housing? And then also curious because you mentioned transitional housing and then also said something about keeping essential workers on the island. So is this specific to particular populations based on their needs, or is this housing really open to anyone?
The application process would, again, sort all that out. I think I've stated as much as my knowledge base is. I would love to get your contact to be able to follow up with you about exactly explaining more the priorities and preferences, but I know for a fact that it's in place, and the goal of it is achieved through this priorities and preferences application process. So did I answer enough for now? Can I follow up with you later?
Yeah, you can follow up with me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the whole point is to serve our local families that are here working and living and raising their families here, and that may even, extend to seniors who have already done that and are in need too. So
Where would we go for details on the priorities and preferences application?
I would just go ahead and if anybody's interested in following up, the website is PAL-Hawaii-.org. I'm sorry. And I would,
And at this time, it's in development because there's no housing to offer until the property is purchased.
if you want to do affordable housing, you gotta
Heather has her hand up.
get it done. Yes. Hi, Heather.
Hey, thanks for being here to present today. Just wanted to follow up with folks. We are working on a residential, a preference law. So with respect to affordable housing, there's always the requirements that are set through the affordable housing agreement in terms of income. But we are working on a law that would create a preference for folks that have lived in the county for a certain number of years or worked in the county 75% of the time for a certain amount of time. As was stated, we have to be really careful so that we're not violating the federal constitution, but we are working on that. We are also working on that term of affordability. So somebody asked the question about how long somebody had to live in a property. The law doesn't state specifically that they have to live in a property for a certain amount of time, but that there is a deed restriction on the property where if they are to resell it, they have to resell it at the affordable rate. With a certain amount of increase per inflation. That time period is currently 10 years on most affordable housing projects, although that can be adjusted in the affordable housing agreement. We are seeking to lengthen that time so that these deed restrictions are in place for a longer period of time. We realize home ownership is an important way to accumulate wealth for families, but we want to make sure that these houses that are built for affordable uses stay in affordable use for a much longer term than 10 years. So just wanted to let you know that those are two things the council is working on putting into the County Code. Thanks for the time.
There's one last question.
Okay. Okay, yep. I guess there's one more question. Hello?
Hi, thanks for your presentation and taking everybody's questions and being on top of it. Thank you. And for this work too, and showing up in this way. My question is recently I came across, there was some senior housing that was created in Papa, I can't say it, but there's that bakery and down the street, there's some senior housing. And some of those seniors, that was affordable housing made for seniors. And we actually sat down with some of those seniors and they communicated to us that they were being threatened to be kicked out because they were trying to grow gardens in their affordable housing. And they just wanted to grow like tomatoes and like plants in next to their housing. And they were getting shut down by the private organization that was making money from the government to house these seniors. And the seniors weren't even allowed to grow their own food, let alone just grow any plants. And so what is your guys' initiatives to include gardening and farming and allowing people to grow their own food? And is that something where you can also support local farmers and local gardeners that can also come in and do that kind of work and enrich the community rather than making it another extractive process of taking advantage of people who need affordable housing? So just because like I noticed the plan too, there was all this like grass, and landscape companies totally scam the county and state governments everywhere. And then they use chemicals and pesticides and all kinds of stuff. So what are you guys going to do to mitigate that or be proactive and include some sort of food and regenerative food aspect? Thank you.
It's up on the slide.
Yeah, thank you. It is on the slide. It's showing that the reason they have identified as living, permanently affordable living, not just housing, is because solar will be part of everything. They have a shared electric vehicle for the community. There are beyond housing programs and business incubator areas for people to develop, children to go in and use computers after school. The idea that edible gardens, community gardens would be very central, but very, in scope and scale. It's not going to solve a larger problem, but it's going to encourage that it's not just about affordable housing, that it's actually about living and what that entails. And we know that the second car for most families is actually calculated out to $15,000 or more a year. So if a family doesn't have to have two cars because the development is on the bus line, that's a huge savings. And if there's also a shared vehicle, which we have lots of very exciting things are going on Kauai, which I don't want to bore you with. It wouldn't be boring, but it's not. I know we're all concerned about our island and the Big Island, and your question is excellent. There would be absolutely,
You're already
no
doing it.
problem.
They're already doing it in Kauai.
There are, yes, exactly. That's what I'm going to point to. And they're going statewide because of the commitment they have to this issue. So I think that I answered it to the best of my ability. It's only 5.5 acres, but again, being adjoining to a park and having built into the design available gardening opportunities and considering sustainable building is all part of what this PAL organization is about.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your time, everybody. I have some handouts here for anybody that would like, and I will get you back to your meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Can I just make one quick comment, Ton?
Please do. Yes.
Yeah, I just don't want everybody leaving tonight thinking that there's chaos going at the Papaloa Senior housing there. I have sat down with the folks there at the senior housing, some of the residents, and it's not exactly as Indy described it, in all due respect, but just so folks know, we are working on installing planters there for the senior residents to be able to create little gardens and have their plants in. So it is being addressed, and it's not quite as bad. Nobody was threatened to be kicked out, so it's all good.
Wait, that's not true, actually. We spoke to a 96-year-old senior that specifically said
Yep,
to us.
she was in my office last week. I
Okay.
talked with her too, and it was a little bit of a misunderstanding. We're okay.
Yeah, we are okay. Let's proceed. First of all, let me ask, I'm not sure who is monitoring, but are we now with quorum? Can somebody answer? We still don't have quorum. Okay. So in that case, let's go ahead. Nicole Garcia has a presentation that she would like to make in regards to an upcoming, and I believe it's an agricultural festival. Nicole is at the Hāmākua or Hāmākua Heritage Center. And so she explained the festival to me last week, and I was excited about what I heard. So I want to pass on that excitement to all of you.
I apologize for not having something for the Zoom people to look at, but I do have some handouts if anybody wants.
Can I
Something to
ask
look
one
at.
thing? Is this too dark for anyone? I shut the lights off to try to make the screen brighter, but I'm afraid that it's most like the sun coming through the door that's causing it. If we're okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So I'm the director of the Hāmākua Heritage Center, and we are actually a nonprofit that's North Hawaii Heritage Foundation that operates the Heritage Center. So we encompass a larger area than just Honoka'a. And we are currently in the process of working through a couple of grants that we received for some projects that we've been wanting to do. The first one is an oral history project. And we've got a real key community group of interviewers and organizers for this oral history project It's a project where we're having the community interview other community members rather than having somebody that's a professional interviewer go in and talk to people. We're doing everything from the community level on up. And with this, we'll be doing a presentation and exhibit at the end of this year. But the big thing is that we want to showcase the results of this oral history project, which is looking at the 30 years after the closure of Hāmākua Sugar and the resiliency of the Hāmākua coast, and talking to workers, plantation workers, support workers, and the next generation of people that were impacted by the closures, and how the community came together, the values that were created on the plantations and things like that to make for a resilient community. And so we want to take these interviews and showcase them next year. And we were already talking about doing some sort of a festival celebrating and commemorating the 30-year anniversary of the final harvest, which was in 1994. And several years ago, Honoka'a did a Plantation Days event 2 years in a row. It was a one-day event. It was with the university and the Heritage Center that used to be part of North Hawaii Education and Research Center, and several other community organizations. And so we want to revisit that idea and turn it into a week-long, almost island-wide type of celebration of the sugar industry, but more than that, because we're an agricultural island. Everything, or a big part of what this island is about is the rich heritage of agriculture from the beginning people all the way through current sustainable agricultural practices. And so this festival would be an opportunity to commemorate that final harvest, remember and celebrate the sugar plantation camp life. That's sort of a big topic lately with some new things that have been coming out, is the values in the camp and the memories and the nostalgia of the plantation camps. Learn about the history and the continuity of agriculture on the Hāmākua coast, and to explore heritage sites of Hāmākua and historic Honoka'a town. So this would be an opportunity for people to come back, people that have been, sometimes we use the word displaced, people that have been priced out of Hawaii and still long for that connection. We want to make this an event that they come back to. We want it to be built by the community for the community, not just one of these events that brings tourists. So a real community-wide type of event, hopefully to become an annual type of thing. So it would be a 10-day festival. It would include inclusive community planning process that celebrates the way of life and groups in the local community. So rather than just hiring a couple of people to organize this festival, like, coming from off island like Ironman does, we want it to be planned by people that are celebrating their own lives, their own heritage, so that there's stakeholder equality, and that the traditions are honored throughout this event. The other big piece of it is the agricultural heritage. So of course, we want to celebrate the longstanding tradition of agriculture, but we also want to emphasize that we can survive with agriculture here. And so this would be an opportunity through the festival to start sharing all of the new agricultural things that are happening, the sustainable ag, the small farms, the things that are cropping up, the things that are trying to survive, and really showcase all that we can do through this type of a thing. And bringing back school ag programs, we don't want to bring them back. We can't do that. We're just a heritage center. But to let those things be showcased there, the ag programs in the schools, FFA, 4-H, and get those opportunities out there for the kids to really celebrate it more than just at one event throughout the year. This is be something like the county fair of the old days, where we have pie contests, pie baking contests, and vegetable contests, and the largest watermelon, and things like that, that bring that joy and that competition and that feeling of those days. So what we're helping to do is develop that sense of pride in the community through the community members that are participating. Some of the things we've got a committee starting out where this is, I hope I mentioned that this is for next year, not this year, October 2024. And that was actually September 30th, 1994 was the final harvest. So we're thinking October is the right time to do it. That gives us a ton of time to plan. We're in the preliminary stages. And some of the things that we are planning to do are cultural evenings hosted by individual ethnic organizations. So we already have a couple of groups that are taking on, I don't know what they're planned, but the halal that's next to us in the building is going to plan something. We've got the Filipino Heritage Group coming in, planning something that is going to be completely organized by the individual groups. We're forming committees to plan each of these pieces. Of course, the festival and ag fair that's showcasing agriculture, all of the history of agriculture and the future of agriculture. An exhibit of our oral history project that Dwight is a part of, and I'll let him, give some feedback as well. Some historic exhibits and walking tours, and we're hoping to partner with other local plantation museum, railroad museum, things like that, to have things up and down the coast so that people that are visiting that don't know the history have opportunities, not just in Hāmākua, but all up and down the coast. We have a good commitment from one of the rodeo organizations for a youth rodeo during this, because agriculture is everything. It's not just what we're growing, it's the ranching, the dairies, all of the different pieces of it. A plantation night at the Hāmākua High School home football game, a big celebration for the workers to come back to. Farm tours, we're hoping to involve a lot of different farm co-ops, the private farms, anybody that can offer a tour and wants to bring people to show it. We've got a group that wants to do a golf tournament. We want to host a community dinner. Lots of different pieces. We have a lot of people coming forward saying that they've got great ideas, but what we're looking for is a commitment from the broader, hopefully the county and things like that, because if we want to turn this into an annual exhibit, we need a lot of hands, and it's not just the Heritage Center. We want a lot of community partners on a larger scale to turn it into something huge and sustainable in itself, so that people turn into something that they put on their calendar and come back for every single year. So,
are you engaging any of the libraries?
We will. We haven't yet. I mean, we're early, but actually we have a good partnership with the Hāmākua Library. So we work with them on exhibits. So I'm sure they'll be a part of it. Questions, anyone?
That's quite exciting.
It is exciting. It's big. It's
Lot.
exciting, but we need partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Dwight,
very
did you
good.
have anything to add? So Dwight Takamini has been part of this committee and is part of the planning for the oral history project, and he's sort of helping with some of this festival as well. So do you want to sit down here?
Sit down there. I'll just come
Okay,
right next to
join
you.
me.
Yeah, well, first of all, I see some familiar faces on the panel, so certainly mahalo, yeah, for your volunteer time, and it gives us a good sense, a good feeling that our interests are being watched after, including the county chair, council chair. So I think Nicole did a good job at explaining, what the Heritage Museum is engaged in. But in stepping back and looking at the larger picture, it seems as though what is created is an opportunity to work with you folks, to work sort of in concert. Because as you build this framework for the future, right, of this coastline, I guess what I really appreciate is the fact that you're allowing through the CDP process, the community to participate, allowing grassroots participation, because they're the people who live, along the coastline. I think, a lot of times that takes leadership. And so again, thank you for what you're doing. It seems to me also that, before really being able to plan the future, we have to understand our past. And the better we understand it, probably the better job we can do in, planning for our future and learning from the lessons of the past. And when Nicole talked about, a focus on the plantation closure, right, 30 years ago, at that time, there was no blueprint, in terms of what you do step one and then you do step two. And it was sort of the approach that you folks are taking, right? You work with the community, you work with people, you work with agencies that can provide resources and guidance. And by working together, especially in a time of crisis, you hope for the best possible outcomes. And so, going back to that sort of what I feel, and I have my own biases, but the rich history of that whole sugar era, of the uplifting in quality of life and all of that after, the sugar workers were able to organize and work more cohesively. And so I think, based on all of that, the richness of our past provides many lessons. And it's interesting because I guess lessons is an education term, right? And recently, I think Nicole generally referenced it. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Piper Toyama. Piper Toyama grew up in Pauwilo. His father worked as an assistant field superintendent. And he had, two other brothers. He went on to graduate from Honoka High School as the valedictorian, and after which he went to college and then returned to Honoka, where he did his first teaching. He brought home his wife, Lois, and both of them did that. Afterwards, he was also teaching at Hilo High School, Hawaii Community College, and he was headmaster for a little over a decade in Waimea at Parker School. His sort of final major project was working with the Honganji out of Honolulu, and he was the person who helped really put together what was referenced as the Peace Academy, the only high school in the entire Western Hemisphere that was supported through resources from Japan. And it was interesting. Piper, throughout his life, kind of was a Kendo student. So he was able to integrate things like martial arts, those principles, even learning how to play drum, all of that into a curriculum that underscored the, how invaluable living together in peace was, and the school is still running, on Oahu. I say all of that only as background because he put out this book called Family Stories from the Plantation and Beyond. So it's online, but there's also a whole bunch at the at the Heritage Museum in Honoka. And what's interesting is it's a collection of short stories, sort of biographical. And boy, when I read this, sort of the ability to relate to the lessons he was teaching us through these small stories, which were, incidents in life, but in the larger scheme, in the bigger picture, conveyed important things about the lifestyle, what the families, who worked for the plantations along the coastline went through, and the values that developed because they helped those families and the people, right, deal with life challenges. And so just like Richard Ha, who put out a really good book not that long ago, this book I mentioned only because it's a nice parallel with all of the things that Nicole described, because you're talking to the same audience, you're talking to people who in many cases live their entire lives, in the camps or in communities along the coastline. And if nothing else, it's an attempt or it creates an opportunity to tie the past to our future. And just as you folks are engaged in the process of how to build better opportunities and a better future, if we can learn from these lessons, perhaps like Nicole referenced, how the values we learn while growing up, a lot of them deal with character, right? You work your hardest, you do your very best, you never give up, basic values, and many of which are universal, right? But the idea was if this will strengthen the foundation of our community. Because central to all of that is everybody supporting one another. You know, that's sort of how we grew up and what the lifestyle reflected. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take too
No,
much
that's
time,
fine.
but
Is
but,
that book available in the public library?
I don't know. It just came out about 3 weeks ago online. That's how I received my copy. And I'm biased about it because Piper was my teacher at Hāmākua High School. Yeah, but yeah, you know, we've kind of talked to classmates and stuff, and when they read it, you know, it's sort of a similar reaction. So it's almost like you know, the Kurisu family, yeah. The sugar town, exactly, you know, how that would apply to just about every community along the coastline. You know, similarly, I think for those, especially who grew up in the camps, but those who grew up in the environment, right? You know, the past century, right? When sugar was the economic base for this coastline, I'm sure they would relate to a lot of things. And to me, the two nice things that I felt while reading this was that the strength of it, one was Piper's sense of humor. Because in all these little stories, you know, at the end of the story, I found myself kind of chuckling or smiling, but there are some serious parts to it too. And the other part was just sort of a sense of humility, which I think invited more people, you know, to enjoy the book. So I'll leave that right there. And again, it's called Family Stories from the Plantation and Beyond. I think Nicole has arranged with Piper to do like a book signing where, you know, he'd be able to come back to Hāmākua. Where his roots, you know, right, while he was growing up and attending school. And what I consider sort of an invaluable gift back to the community for, as he says in the book, all that he received because he grew up, you know, during that period of time in Paolo. So I'll just leave it at that in case anybody has any questions or Nicole.
So to follow up on the book and some things that have been going on, I think on social media with this whole plantation camp kids idea has been real timely. Right after COVID, a Facebook page was started that's bringing together those nostalgia of the plantation camp. And so it's all sort of falling in with what we're planning to turn this into a bit of a reunion for the plantation workers, you know, come back to this event and see what's going on in the community, participate and be a part of this. So we're really hoping that we can partner with some businesses, some nonprofits, different agricultural organizations, the county, the university, things like that. So it feels really timely. It feels like this is, you know, with the reunion, I mean, with the 30 years coming up, that this is the time to start this event.
If I can just add one footnote to that, you know, in terms of an application, in terms of how those values might have been the foundation for people becoming more successful. I don't know how many of you know Arnold Martinez. Arnold Martinez, of course, is the CEO for CPB, Central Pacific Bank. Okay. The thing is, Arnold Martinez grew up in Hāmākua. And his family, of course, had to depend on the plantation for employment. When Arnold became the CEO for Central Pacific Bank, he underscored that how he got there was due, in substantial part, to the values he learned while growing up in Hāmākua. So Nicole mentioned the oral history program. Arnold Martinez has agreed to be one of the people to be interviewed for that. And he's not the only one. I'm sure there's many other, success stories. And, I guess the one thing I really feel fortunate about is when you think about it, how many communities have like, the, right, Hāmākua Heritage Museum, or even Hāpaico, right? The Plantation Museum, right? That includes things that remind us about our past, that remind us about who we are, and I think, again, it's the opportunity to join hands with you folks, because I'm just anticipating that, those kinds of things may become part of the discussions you folks have as you lay, the groundwork for our future. So again, thank you.
Nicole.
Yes.
Is there anything that you can see that the action committee can help with at this point? I'm sure as things evolve, there will be other times that you'll want to.
Specifically, I think just taking it to the county level to see if we can get support. I'm hoping for Parks and Recreation, things like that. Just
If we would write a letter
Yeah,
in support,
yeah.
that might be of
Yes.
some benefit to you.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Tom, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Under Nicole's leadership, the committee has from time to time invited sort of resource people. For example, Heather, Bob Akers, because he's such a strong proponent for community-based economic development, right? He came and he found out about, what was going on, and he made some really good suggestions. Jane Testa, of course, also with R&D previously, right, under Harry Kim. She was one of the people who actually came out to Hāmākua 30 years ago to help, support the community in time of crisis. And I don't know if you recall, but there was a guy named David Fuertes, who for a little while was the community liaison, in terms of how do we respond and recover, right, after, right, the final harvest and that whole, final parade and the emotional feelings, the intensity that, all were demonstrated. And so I guess the only thing is I see so much leadership among the members of this panel. If they're interested, or if they have time, would probably be more the relevant question to come out and participate. Certainly to hear what is being planned, but more importantly, to pick their brains on, as they move forward with this community development plan for the coastline, what kinds of ideas can they inject into the ongoing discussion where, whether economic or otherwise, there might be, some pathways we can begin to try to pursue given the year, ahead of us. And other initiatives that you folks have helped to start going, where again, we can kind of work together and maybe, hopefully bring more effectiveness to the overall effort.
Right, it's inspiring to hear you. It's been a long time since I've seen you, and it's great to remember what a great contribution you've made to our communities here. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, but it's really the communities that I feel grateful for. I think Bobby had a question.
Hāmākua sugar ends at Mount Margaret's plant. Right. So are you, I'm not dating your friend.
No.
But are you excluding people that grew up in Seaboard?
We're not excluding anybody.
Yeah.
I think that it's,
But the point
Yeah.
is, you're talking about that general tradition about sugar. Sugar is not only, I know Hāmākua runs, it's very strong, but
Yeah.
I would be very open your doors to others. You don't want to make it too big. I would see
right,
that coming.
right.
But, Hāklau Sugar had a reunion about 30 years ago in Pacific. Remember that? There's a lot of this pictures and information. I know you're a team of one.
I think simply by expanding it, because we'd like to, I said, okay, are you just splitting us from, because this is Hāmākua sugar?
Right.
Yeah, but every other sugar plantation has same challenges too. So the question is, without being, it's so cumbersome. Can the team of sugar plantation growth? And the reason I'm saying this is because, John Hammerstrom is the president of CERC, in the Community Emergency Response Team. And nothing against CERC, but being here, CERC comes with a program developed on the mainland. Very different from applying it here, And I've noticed that in the continent, a lot of the discussion, the people are very verbal. They discuss something, they have meetings and all. But as I told our circuit members, when you move in here, a lot of local people are not verbal. They don't need to be told what to do next. And they say, I guarantee you, without knowing your neighbor, they know when you're taking a bath and when you're at the hospital. But it's the sense. So is this something that this program will try to share with the new arrivals here? Because the culture of plantation is very unique in that sense. It's very subtle, but how not to depress those people saying that, and it's a both side thing, So there's an opportunity because there is, as you said, why there's a culture here that developed with plantation. You have books like the book you talked about, there's still a lot of books, but how do you bring this? I think people that move here, that part of this group, want to absorb that. How can you bring me into this? So how can, and it's a two-way street too. So, I don't want to put burden on you, but thank you.
No, I've got a couple, I can answer a couple of those. We're not sold on just being Hāmākua sugar area. And I very subtly, the name of it is not permanent. Hāmākua Sugar Days, we use that, but I don't know if you noticed that we use the Kahako because we're including all of Hāmākua rather than Hāmākua Sugar as the company. So absolutely the entire coast, or however, if we get partners that go farther, then we would love for it to be just Sugar Days or Hawaii Island Sugar Days or something like that. The other part of that is because of this oral history project and the idea of doing what we're doing is a collaborative community project where everybody that's doing an interview, it has to have had some sort of roots in the community during the sugar. So I'm not doing any interviews. Nobody else on the group is doing an interview has moved here after the plantations closed. So it's being built by the community, and the same concept is as part of this. So I've actually on our committee of planning, I've got 2 or 3 people that I would call more of consultants rather than actual planners who will be there to kind of keep us grounded, to remember that it is about the plantation culture and not to step on any toes and push those voices out that might be a little less eager to get out there and, to help be the voice for the people that might not. And there are people that are, generationally here and were plantation themselves. So I don't know if that helps answer your question, but it was really important to me to invite people onto the committee that their roots are here. And those are the people that are making the decisions on what we're going to do.
Because I think the challenge here is how do we preserve what we had?
Right.
Communities get restructured and fall apart, get stronger, as they get weaker. So what is it? What is the strings that tie them all together? So I think this is really, it adds to the beginning of a wider discussion about, what is it goes for Thank you.
Yes.
I think the fact that you're presenting this to the Hāmākua Community Development Plan Action Committee, which encompasses the full Hāmākua coast, is saying to me that you're reaching out to the communities, Hāmākua, Pepekeo, all the way up to contribute to what you were creating. And I hope that the individuals on the committee here will take this to their homes and and to their communities and say, yes, we're going to be a part of this and, you know, and bring that energy from their communities to this whole project. So, thank you.
And there is contact information on the bottom of this. I know that I didn't bring enough for everybody, but there is contact. Hāmākua Heritage Center. It's kind of a two-man show, so. A two-man and a bunch of volunteers show,
I think
so,
we have a question online.
okay.
Indy?
Hey guys, thank you also for doing something to raise awareness and around the agricultural industry and just the culture, agriculture. Wow. And also maybe inspiring young people. As I've been meeting younger people, younger generations in the community, how important it is to remind them of where they came from and where we can go together if we start connecting to the soil again and to our ancestors and 7 generations forwards, right? So that's beautiful. So thank you. I just wanted to share, like, this is exciting because I've been trying to wrap my mind and my heart around how to get Kiss the Ground involved. And so Kiss the Ground is a nonprofit. It's also a documentary you can watch on Netflix, but they kind of have been pushing the farm bill at the federal level, but they invest and donate and all kinds of projects that are related to supporting agriculture, especially regenerative agriculture. So I can definitely talk to them. The founders are my friends, and if, you know, however you guys want to facilitate that conversation, I could bring them in and see how they could donate to doing this event, and they can also get more awareness around policy making to support farmers, especially local farmers and generational farmers, and that's what they want to support and bring awareness to. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
You know, maybe a real short, I guess, comment. Let's see, going to Richard again. I mentioned David Fuertes. And David Fuertes has been, of course, deeply engaged in agriculture since, I guess, when he was teaching at Koala, the Future Farmers of America too, yeah? I understand from talking to him, and the legislature just, I guess, ended last week, Thursday. Let's see, Heather, I don't know if it might come to your attention, but I understand there's supposed to be $200,000 to sort of, I guess, create more of the ag programs where it's hands-on and the students get a chance, right? You know, to learn by doing. And Honoka, I don't think has a program right now. And I don't think Lapahoihoi has, you know, one either at the school. So, huh? Oh,
So
garden.
small scale.
Ah,
Very small.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Hāmākua has the garden, but there's no FFA right now.
No.
yeah.
We've lost those programs, yeah. Here too.
I know part of the intent of the funding was to give the kind of support to rebuild, yeah. Because I think there's been, well, some people would say even a little bit neglect by the Department of Education over those folk tech type programs. And as a result, the teachers aren't there. And if the teachers aren't there, you don't have the program and the kids don't benefit. So anyway, it's just a heads up that, you know, there might be resources and maybe because of the rich tradition, you know, as you indicated, in agriculture that, you know, the coastline schools might be able to engage in those resources and help the kids who grow up along.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
If you go to, when I go to Tractor Supply in Hilo, there's an option to donate $2 to FFA. So it's still around, and I was doing my part, hoping it end up somewhere.
It is,
They
and
do
I
produce FFA, yeah.
yeah, I think it's in some of, there's no Hāmākua program, but
Yeah,
it
but
was
it's
4 years
FFA.
ago, but hopefully that's what David is gonna help get.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Hopefully, yeah.
And one more before I
Yes.
kind of overwhelm you, but you know, Blake Naughton's presented. Did Blake Naughton, what did he say?
He was going to present
Yeah.
tonight, but he was unable to.
Yeah, but his effort about access to fishing and ocean is really a big part of plantation too. Like you remember that strike days, these are the resources. So that part and parcel, because he has another group of people that fishing is also part of their plantation. going on. Yeah. So that's kind of.
Sure, yeah, another. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thanks.
Wait, before you walk away.
Right here, one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem, no problem. Thank you guys so much for the presentation. Really excited that this is all gonna happen. But Dwight, I've been meaning to email you, but since you're here, I'll just ask you. I was talking with former council member Poindexter, and one of the visions that I've shared with this group is someday I want a trail from Hilo to Honoka'a that stops in all the plantation towns and visits the museum in Papaikou and goes, to the plantation, the train museum and all of that. She said that you had actually worked on that at some point in time. So if you still got any of that documentation, I would love to share it, and maybe that this is something we can weave all into this effort.
Yeah, I think it was just only a beginning, and like you said, Lahore Train Museum would be a key hub to that whole trail concept, but it was left at that. It was just a concept, and at that time, we were beginning to talk story with some of the entities that might be part of that, yeah, and figure out whether there was an economic basis so that it could be a win-win type situation. But that's sort of where it ended.
Yeah. I think there's definitely an economic basis. I mean, I'm thinking about the model that they have in Japan, where people can travel from village to village and stop at the restaurants and stay in a little hotel or whatever. And I think that I can envision people traveling up the coast that way and getting a little coin when they get to each town or something like that. But a dream big. Hopefully that's something we can work on.
Okay, yeah, I think people like Lisa Barton, yeah, she's right there in the train station. But that was sort of a part of the discussion, and let's see. I guess it's basically just people working together. So I like your idea about it'll take some leadership just to pull it all together. But once you do that, if it works, it would be terrific. Yeah.
Dwight, this might be a nice time to
Oh, there you
remember Hilo Hāmākua Heritage Quarter. And that being part of the plantation, the reason that came about was the closure of the plantation. And not one plantation, but 3 plantations, the only 3 left on the island, and that was between 94 and 96. And that's why his question, was right about including everyone, because at that time, when the state and the county came up to the communities to say, how can we help? The meeting was something like this. A lot of ideas were generated, and then we were set free into our communities with a grant that the county and the state had acquired. And it was small funds, but for most of us that started anything, including Honoka'a at the time, was a kiosk for tourists to find destinations. And for Royal South Hilo was the book that they put out. And for us, it was the trains.
Yeah.
And I think the amount of people involved at the time was, a lot. You had a lot of people, and there are a lot of them that are still around. And I think that model of the group that represented all of the communities is a great place for Heather to start for the trail, because I believe in that trail. I think that trail should happen. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And that ties us all together in the way that we tried to tie the lower part of Wapahoehoe with the upper part of Wapahoehoe. Same try. Kind of got shut down, but we tried.
See, I said Lisa is the person to talk to. But Hilo Coast Processing Company and Hāmākua Sugar both closed their doors for the final time, same year, about a month apart. So Hāmākua, of course, was in bankruptcy, so it was a little bit tougher there, but you're right in terms of that whole common experience. Yeah, and I think it was Millie Kim, the person. Okay, so Millie Kim has passed on, but that corridor concept, that Lisa was talking about, she was working on that. And I'm not sure if Gerald, yeah.
David Hornish was working on it too.
Okay, so.
David was so intricate into that, but he was.
Okay, so there might be a couple people who might help us begin that search for any documentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dwight, and Lisa. And, I also want to mention that Debbie Chang, who is the chair of the Punk Commission, is sitting here in the audience. And, it probably was about 1 month ago, I asked Debbie for a list of names that she might be able to contribute of people who had in fact made contribution to or might be willing to make contribution to forming a community group all up and down the Hāmākua coast, dedicated to exactly the model that you're talking about now. And so Debbie, the names that she gave me include some that we have mentioned already tonight, Blake McNaughton for one, but also a number of people more up on the Honokaa, Pawilo side. But we're actively looking at this point to try to find a group or an organization or some way of trying to put that vision into reality. Exactly the vision that Heather was talking about. So yes.
At one time, they were connected. There was an organization called Rural South Hilo Community Association, which took it, from Hilo all the way till Ninole.
Yeah.
And of course, Nikki folks right now are helping to keep alive the North Hilo Community Council, which takes it from Ninole, right, all the way to Hawulo. Yeah, and there used to be, I don't know if you recall, a Hāmākua District Development Council.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
So the idea was all three of them would just work together and they're representing their own areas,
Mhm.
but you can speak with one voice, right? The entire
Yeah.
coastline. And
Right.
the cloud that, would be added as a result.
Right.
So I think a lot of people have passed on, but there still was some that, were actively engaged. And I guess, the best example is North Hilo Community Council because,
Lucille
it
Chung
is
is a-
survived. Yeah.
Lucille Chung's still alive and she remembers every meeting, I'm sure.
So if the group decides to pursue that, maybe we can assist identifying.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That feels like a springboard. So I think something is bound to happen. So we never reached quorum. So I think there are some things that maybe our committee's not able to do tonight, such as review the minutes from the previous meetings. But Heather, do you have anything that you would like to address to the committee and to the people who've come here this evening?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I owe you names and I know you had asked for additional names and I have a couple ideas for you for that project. So I'll leave that for another moment, but a couple of quick things. I will be putting out in the newsletter, and I hope you all are signed up for the weekly newsletter, a detailed update on the Laupahoehoe pool. I know I'm getting a lot of letters and emails from people that are concerned and frustrated with the delays on getting that repaired. I'm concerned because I'm hearing some information that's incorrect coming back, like we don't have the money to pay for the repairs, which we do. We don't have the money to redo the bottom of the pool, which so that's where I think the confusion came. So please look at that next week. I want to get the most recent update from Parks and Rec to put that in there on Friday. So that'll go out then. And then the other big thing is on council next week, we have the first hearing of a bill that Councilmember Villegas and I put together. The bill is Bill 48, and it creates an Office of Sustainability, Climate Equity, and Resilience in the county, so otherwise affectionately known as OSCAR. We're really excited about the creation of this office. The impetus behind it was, one, we know we have a lot of wonderful plans in the county about how to build sustainability, mitigate climate change pollution, adapt to climate change, and build resilience, but we often lack the ability to implement. And so that is one of the purposes of creating this office, is to have a cabinet level office that ensures that our activities are coordinated both internally within the county, but also externally with our partners in the community to make sure that action actually gets done. The other purpose behind creating this office now is that there is a tremendous amount of funding available through the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act from the Biden administration. And the wording in the actual bill itself and in the creation of the office was specifically designed and geared to tap into those grant funds. I have the privilege of sitting on the EPA's Local Government Advisory Committee, so I actually see all of the grants before they get put out. So I was able to review them and put that wording into the bill's actual formation so that we're really perfectly set up to go after those grants. And it looks like we already have potentially 3 of the positions out of 5 funded through grant opportunities. So we're very excited about the ability of this office to bring in revenue and eventually sustain itself. So we'll be putting out a press release tomorrow with more details, but hopefully it's something that if you're interested in, you'll write testimony to support. But it's something that I've been working on for a couple of years now, and I'm really grateful to finally be able to get it introduced. And that covers about everything that's going on right now.
Oh, thank you. Are there any questions to Heather? Yes.
The newsletter or the press release will tell us how and where testimony will be requested.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll make sure that that's included in the newsletter, and I'm putting the link to the newsletter sign up in the chat right now.
Okay.
We just do our announcements and that's it.
What?
We just do our announcements and then that's it.
Yes, you know, we did have, are there any, is there any testimony that people came to present? Right, you know, we don't actually have a subcommittee report in the sense that we are not, we're not actually having a committee meeting. But I think that I would feel comfortable opening you to or allowing you to present if you would like to say something about what your group has been working on. But you need to come.
I think it's great that we've had people come here tonight to make presentations.
Yeah, right,
It's sad that we don't have a quorum, but
right.
I think it's worthwhile for people to let other people know what's going on in the community.
Yeah, if you'd like to sit here for a moment,
Sure.
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
My name is Richard Beidelman, and I've lived in the islands now.
Richard, here, why don't you sit
for
here?
about
I'm sorry,
15
I thought-
Yeah, for about
Yeah.
15 years, but I've only lived in Hāmākua about 3 years. But when I lived in Puna, I got involved with healthcare. And we developed a Puna Community Medical Center in there, and I'm interested in healthcare here. And I live on Lehua Street. There's a new subdivision there with eight homes, and I live in one of those homes. But there are also going to be 40 new homes being built on Lehua Street in 2 separate subdivisions. And 20 of those properties will be sold at what they agreed to as an affordable below market price. And the developer agrees to that when he gets the permit from the county. So it's, you know, it's written in stone, so to speak. Well, we have the Hāmākua Health Clinic.
Richard, can I have you speak in?
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have the Hāmākua Health Clinic in Honoka'a, and they operate 4 clinics. They operate one in Honoka'a, they recently have one in Lapahoihoi, they have one in Waimea, and they have another one up in Kapa'au. And that clinic is what they call an FQHC. It's a federally qualified health clinic. And their funding is not dependent upon patient encounters. The federal government said a number of years ago that we lack healthcare in rural areas. And so we're gonna fund clinics and we're not gonna get overly concerned about patient encounters. And this clinic is, in my opinion, doing just fine. Now, what else is happening is the community college here is expanding. And they're gonna start a culinary arts program at the college in Hāmākua, and they're also gonna start a nursing program. I'm a little disappointed that they're doing culinary arts, only because those people are gonna wind up driving down to the resorts to work, to get a job. And the number of people that I see who live in Hāmākua, who work down in the resorts, to me is pretty astounding. And boy, is that a long commute for people. But at any rate, what I'm working on is with these new homes coming in, I would like to see us be able to find some way to finance those homes for people who are healthcare workers. So, because as we are all aware, we have an incredible shortage of healthcare workers. So if we can provide an opportunity for somebody who wants to be a healthcare worker in the system, that we can provide an opportunity for them to buy a home. And I'm in touch right now with the Urban Institute in Washington, D.C. to find out. I mean, what I'm suggesting, I'm sure, is not new. Just a matter of, and this dotting the i's and crossing the t's. Now, the other thing that we've done on Lehua Street is some of you are aware there's a one-lane bridge on that street. And people come whizzing down that street 40 miles an hour going someplace. So last week we got approval from the county and they're gonna put in a speed bump on Lehua Street at the bridge. And hopefully that will slow down traffic a little more. Because when those 40 homes are built on Lehua, we lack infrastructure. And I've had discussions with Heather about the fact that, you know, we ought to have sidewalks. You know, there are what, 6 or 8 streets that come down from the Belt Road to the main Mamani Street, and not one of them has a sidewalk or a walking path. This whole town is built on the notion that you're going to drive. And as the town grows, we're going to have a traffic problem unless we put in some infrastructure. And from what I'm observing, there's a whole lot of real estate on the Hāmākua coast in which they could develop real estate in addition to the farming. And so I'd like to see it change.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you for contributing. Is there any other comments or,
I had an announcement.
yes, announcement?
The County of Hawaii Office of Housing has released their request for proposals for affordable housing developments. And the county housing website has the information for applications, but the window is only open from May 1st to June 30th for developers who want to submit a proposal and be considered to have access to, it's approximately $9 million that they're have available to spend. So there's many pieces that those funds will be going towards, but the proposal period is open. So I'd like to make sure the community knows, you know, any developers, have them make sure they're applying.
The all of the literature that Nikki is referencing is in the meeting packet that was distributed to you for tonight's meeting. And what the description of the proposal that Nikki's given is very much elaborated in those documents. So if you have an interest in what exactly is being offered, then that would be, I think, the way to access that information.
Just hawaiicounty.gov/AHP. And then there's more and more and more there, but affordable housing program, so AHP.
If there's no other comments, questions, then is there a motion for adjournment? Oh, that's right.
Oh, Indy has his hand up.
Oh, Indy, yes.
Hey, guys. So no official subcommittee meetings going on as of now for the community gardens, but I would love to propose an opportunity to share, for like 10 or 15 minutes to bring in a researcher who does extensive research on the concept of farm stops, which are guaranteed, basically they're grocery stores that are also farmers markets that are guaranteed opportunities for farmers to make money regardless of what's happening with their crops. I was hoping to bring in the researcher next month to share over 5 or 10 minutes how communities all across the rural communities across the country have become more resilient because they have farm stops. And so we also don't have a grocery store across 40 miles across the coast, which would be like a real grocery store. So it might be really helpful, like an inflation buster, also creating more food, local food opportunities and local storage and production, storage and packaging opportunities for local farmers. So I want to propose that to be on the agenda next month, and it'll be another great presentation, and it'll be actually, I'll just be kicking back. It'll be more asking questions to Katie Barr, who is a researcher from the University of Michigan, who researches farm stops across the world, including America. Thank you.
Thank you, Indy. I have your email address and was intending actually to get in touch with you in regards to the presentation that you made last month. I'd like to follow up on that. Nikki, were you saying anything?
Yeah, just make sure we get that person's contact information. And there's
Yeah.
a question on the chat.
Okay, can you read that question?
Faithman wants to know if there'll be maps of the speed bumps open to the public and a chance for the public to weigh in. So that was regarding Lakewood Street.
Yes.
The decision by the county street department depended on the people who live on the street to approve it. So that's the process we went through, and it got approved. Now, if somebody has a question about it, I'll do what I can to answer it.
I think it's just one.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Actually, that's not true.
Okay.
There's actually gonna be 4 humps from the bridge down to just all the way through what they call the Kirby Road.
Yeah. Snake.
Before you get to the park. So there'll be a total of 4 on that side of the bridge, the Waimea side. And they're working on how many on the Hilo side right now, because they just got approval from the owners of Tex Restaurant. Permission that they were in agreement to allow humps to be on that side as well. From what the representative from transportation said was, everyone must be in agreement. In other words, if anyone in the neighborhood that owns property is in opposition, they will not put a speed hump there. So it has to be 100% agreement in the owners that are adjacent to the road as to whether the hump goes in or not.
So the downside, everybody's in agreement so far.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Is pay time? Good.
I remember when they put the pins down the center of Mamani Street a few years back, those
yellow traffic controlling bars down the middle of Mamani Street, and the public didn't like it, and they had to remove them. And so I was just making sure that before, you know, it seemed wise to consult the general public before you know, making such a big change to Honoka'a, that, you know, people got engaged, you know, especially if they're permanent rather than just like a temporary speed bump or change, you know, sort of thing. Just that we thought it through, that the community got involved. Just that would be my comment, that there'd be an opportunity for the general public to weigh in before anything permanent happened. Seemed wise.
And do we have it's the Department of Public Works, and we have an
Actually,
access
it's the
point.
traffic division.
Traffic division at Public Works would be where the public should probably address their comments.
Is that a place that Heather might actually be able to ask DPW if they want to put that out in her newsletter so that then everybody knows about it?
Yes, I think there probably is a process that could involve Heather's participation.
The typical process is the process that's already been described, which is the people on the road have the say in it, and they have to unanimously agree, or they have to unanimously have been notified. They don't all have to agree, but majority, 80%, I think, have to agree. And then there also has to be an agreement from certain property owners that they will allow a bump in front of their property. There isn't currently any kind of formal mechanism for broader feedback, but if that is something that the body wants, I can get the relevant information to through the newsletter out to the community from traffic if they've got a map planned. I'm happy to do that.
We can't say we want 80 because we're not a body.
Oh, that's true.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's, I agree.
I'd like to mention one opportunity, you know, Hawaii Island Community Development Corporation, nonprofit, affordable housing. They've been doing self-help housing. Over the last 20 years, they've done 300. And in Pepekeo, they've got 30 houses. And I'm on the board, so I see how that works. And it's pretty amazing how unified that community becomes. So to the extent that we can figure out how we enable something like that, that's an opportunity to lower the cost of housing. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Richard. Are there, besides Indy's recommendation for a agenda item next month, are there any other recommendations for agenda items?
I have a list for you.
I'm sorry.
I have a list.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Then we don't even need to adjourn the meeting. I guess it was never called to order. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay.
Hey, John. Bye. Debbie and Lisa. Have a good night.
Good for you.